Right, I want to have a go at doing our door here that leads into our hall, where I have already got my glass paint on the front door. So we're going to see if we can make this just a little bit more interesting. Okay, it looks fantastic, doesn't it? Now, in order to achieve that, and I've got to say, it's amazing fun. I've really had a great time doing it, and so easy. So what do you need? First of all, you need your lead. I've got it here on a roll. You can get it from a website out there. There are a few out there that sell it. I got mine from a double glazing company. They were very kind and took pity on me and sold me some of their lead they use for their windows. But anyway, you need your lead and you need this little gadget. And when you get it off the web, you often get this little gadget with it. And it's got a curved piece here, and that goes over the lead, so it pushes it onto the window. You need something as well for when you are doing your join to push on. You will push on with this and do it, but you also need something to roller it on so it flattens it out and keeps it in place. That will become more obvious as we go along. You can use a Stanley, you don't have to. I don't usually use a Stanley knife. However, if you want to get a really good straight line, you can measure out and then you can score it with your Stanley knife. And then you get a dead straight line, and then you can cut up. I'll just show you how. So I'm coming down here. It will not go through all of that lead. When it moves, to be very careful. It wants to slip. But you can get your straight line there, and then you have something which you can follow to cut. So as you're measuring and doing it, you've got a line that you can cut along. And it helps to keep it straight. Now, as you do it, you'll see it begins to bend. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute as we go along. You may use a Stanley knife. I don't. I tend to use the scissors and use my eye to cut. But if you wanted to, you could lay it down on your lead and score your line down, and then you'll have a line to score. And it does cut it quite straight. You can see that one that I've done earlier on. That was joined onto there. So it does make it easy. You do get a nice straight line. But I generally use the scissors and just cut. You will need, for the very end product, you'll need your vitriol or another line, but I like these ones, they're nice and transparent, so these are the ones I use. Your paints, selection of paint brushes, terps to clean out your brushes, and your design, whatever your design is that you might be wanting to use. Now, I'm going to use this one, and I'll explain why in a moment. Now, I'm going for this design because this is the one I've used on my front door, and the front door is in the same room as it's in the hall, and it's in the same area as the door I'm going to put some leaded paint on, lead and paint on. So I'm going to use this design, and this is a design I used earlier for this one. You can see that's that one there. The other thing I've got here is you'll see that I've subdivided the area here, and then I put little bits across and then painted it different colours. And up here I've got this little area here going on. So I'm trying to replicate that on my door in the hall. So if we now look over to this door in the hall, you'll see I've made a start on doing that, and I'm going to go through how I did this in a minute so you can see the process. And up here I've done this one freehand. It's a small one of these. And as I say, I've kept the design the same because it's on my front door. However, you might want something totally different. Here's another one down here, and you can see how to do this. You literally blue tack it on the other side, and then you can use that, and then you can put your lead paint, and you have a line to follow. Or you can do it freehand. So you can roughly measure, you can either use the tape and just roughly measure, cut it a little bit bigger, or you can actually use the lead and imagine it going round, bend it round so you get an idea of how much you're going to want, and then chop it off. So with your Stanley, score your line. I usually divide one width into 3, and I do that because this is in half and it doesn't bend very easily, but when it's in 3, because it's narrower, it's easier to bend and get the shape that you want. And then, as I say, it doesn't score all the way through. You can't fold it and get it, you have to cut it, but it just gives you a guideline, or you can just do it freehand. So I'm going to cut that now. So there's our template. So first of all, I'm just going to cut that little leg there, and you do each little piece in stages. So the first thing we're going to do is cut that. Make sure the surface is clean that you're going to work on. Make sure that there's no grease on there. And be very careful you don't touch the back of the adhesive on the lead, because otherwise it won't stick very well. So now we're going to peel that off of there. Okay. Trying hard not to touch it. And then we need to pop it where we want it to go without touching it. There we go. And pop that on there. And then we're going to need to get our little gadget to secure it into place. Using the beveled edge, you're just going to push that in there. Get that in. You've got a nice point there, and you can just push it into the corners. So make sure it's really secure. Right, we've got a rough length of what we're going to need. Again, make sure it's clean, because your fingers do get hot doing this. And you're roughly going to make it the shape you want. Okay, so bend it into the shape you want, and then twist it round to get the shape. That's very roughly. And then the trick is to try and get it as flat as you can before you take the backing paper off. So try and get the shape and then really flatten it with your fingers. You just have to keep on at this, it's a little bit fiddly. Alright, and I'm just going to do that bit there, and then I'll do that bit there, and then I'll do that bit there and that bit there, and build it up bit by bit. It'll make a little bit more sense as we go along. But the key is to get it as flat as you can and iron out those kinks with your fingers, because then when you pull off the backing paper and you come to stick it to the door, it will actually be the shape you want. I'm going to cut that off because I don't want it and it's getting in the way. That's very roughly the shape I want now. Okay, we're nearly ready to go. You can keep moving it around, of course, when you've done it, so don't worry if you've got a shape and you think it doesn't look quite right. You can keep on moving it. Okay, so now, roughly got that shape. Try not to touch the back, which is difficult to do. Okay, and then you're going to pop it on there, and you overlap it there on that top bit there, so that's overlapped. And then you can follow your line round. Don't worry if it's not exact. And then you push it down with your nails. There we are. When you've got it on, get your gadget and very carefully iron it. Almost hold it in place as you do it. So ironing it on. You see the creases are wrinkling out. There we are. Around there. And really go over the top where the join is, so you really get it to stick to the other piece. So there we have that bit in place. Doing designs like the flowers, you can see as you cut it, it is actually wanting to curl. So use the natural curl it's wanting to go in for your design, if you have curves in your design, of course. Now at this point here, I'm going to do this bit and this bit. Now if you think to yourself, I'm not so keen on that laying over the top. Personally, I don't think it makes too much difference, but you might prefer with your design to have this one going over. You can just peel it back off and then gently pop that one underneath. So don't worry if you've got the order around the wrong way, because at this point it's very, very easy to move them around. Again, I'm just going to make it the shape I want. Chop off what I don't need. Flatten it. There we go. So that's roughly there. There we are. So that's all ready now to go on. So this piece now is over the top of that one. It's come around here, and I've been able to mould it round to get that next line, and that's pushed on hard. Now this piece is coming around here. I'm going to lay that on top of that one and push it down, and then lay that one on top of that one. So you can see that join. So they're very easy afterwards to change your mind about the order you want the joins to be and show, because they will show a little bit. You can then use one of these, this is for our wallpaper, and just gently, careful with your glass, you don't go through your glass, don't push too hard, but just gently use that on. The good thing is it can be moved around fingernails are a good thing to push it down with as well. So make sure it's well secure. And then I'm going to get on with the next bit around here and the twirly bits. Right, we're going to do this twirly bit here. Now, you can see it's not quite married up with the pattern underneath, but it doesn't actually matter too much. It depends how fussy you want to be, but I don't need to be that fussy. You can always take the paper away if you're not sure whether it's looking any good. Now, you get your next piece, and again, you need to curve it round and flatten it as you curve it. So you can see here, this is what I've been doing with this piece here, to try and get that curly shape, and then roughly work out where you're going to need to cut it. So roughly that's going to go on there and come round. So I'd say about here is where I'm going to cut it. So get rid of that. And then I think that'll look okay. So I've got it as flat as I can before I take that paper off. That's the trick with this. And getting the paper off is the next trick, of course. Ah, yeah, we got it. Don't touch it. Oh, okay, here we go. So that's going over that. It's not gone bad actually at all. Okay, just gently push that on, and then I'll get the little gadget and iron it out. Okay, so we're going over the top of that. First of all, before you push that down, get that round, hold it in place and push hard on there. Well, not too hard to go through your glass. You see my fingers are touching the glass and I'm hot, so that will stop it sticking. And then curve it round. If you find that you need it curved a little bit more, just gently ease it off and then just curve it. Oh, it's moved. Don't worry, that's not the end of the world. We just need to get it back on. I've taken the paper away so we can see the effect, if that's what we want. And I think that's quite okay. Maybe just curve it around a little tiny bit more. Just ease that in a little bit more. It's just playing with it. I mean, the more you do it, the more you'll enjoy, and the more you play, and the shapes you want, and get what you want out of it. You don't have to do all these shapes. That's it. And then ease that one over there. That seals it in. So when we clean, and wipe it all down and go mad and do some housework, it shouldn't come off. So as you can see here, I've put a little bar down here, I've got the circle there, and then I put another bar there and made sure it's secure. So now I've got another circle to go. So I'm just going to show you how to do that. Make sure it's not too wide. As we said before, I cut one of these into 3. And then you just gently keep turning it, but pushing it down as it buckles. Okay, so you're just gradually going round. Bring that bit round there, and there's your circle. And cut those bits off that we don't want, and you just got to keep on teasing it round. Okay, and that's ready now to be pushed onto there and cut these pieces off. So I'm going to cut off that dead end there that we don't want. Ease the paper off. This will be the tricky part, because I'll try and keep the circle shape. So as you put it down, remember you can keep on moving it around. Even when you popped it on, you can get a little knife under it. Push it down. There we are. And there we have it. Once you push, it flattens out. Cross that over. Remember, you can keep moving it. It just needs to be pushed over there. Comes off, don't worry, that happens when it's been pushed flat. There we are, she's on. Okay, and now the next piece I've got here, I've already shaped it, so I'm going to do the bar and that bit on. So there we are, we've nearly finished. I'm going to duplicate this now in another panel. And the way you do this is you have to put these uprights on first, so that when you go across, you're going across those two there. So this one needs to go on first as well. It seals it in, it gives it a nice straight edge. Otherwise you've got a little bit popping over the top and it doesn't look as neat and tidy. You You don't have to do it that way, but that's the way I'm going to do it. So you do the upright pieces first, then you do your bars across. Have something uniform, whichever way round you want to do it, but have it uniform so it looks the same. So we have our upright bars, which looks a little bit odd, but once you put that across, you can see that it seals it nicely, and everything will be going in the same direction. So we're going to pop that on there, being sure to get it right on the edge and catching the bottom as we do it. And again, making sure it's secure. And then we have our last one to go along the top, which I'm going to do now. Last bit ready to go on, making sure you seal the top of that. Try and keep it as straight and as flat as you can. Yeah, that lovely edge, and you can see how that's sealing that in now. Got up to the edge, it's slightly too big, just cut that off. And there we are, we have finished that piece. Right then, I'm just going to roll it and make sure it's completely sealed in. Coming back up to the one we did earlier on, making sure those joins are really sealed. Take the paper away and we can see if we like it. And there we are. So we have that one there, this one I did earlier, that one from before, little tiny one. So I'm just going to put a few little bits on here and there now, a couple of little blocks like this, higgledy-piggledy, and then it's ready to paint.
Well, as you can see, that's all the lead work done now, and we have started now, or Jan has, should I say, on the painting.
Okay, we're going to crack on with the painting now, and as you can see, I've made a start. You can use cheap brushes, it's fine, but like with any job, the better the brush is, the better the finish. So I've got a really thin brush, and the reason I've got that is I've got lots of small areas to work in. So this has already been painted. I'm going to come back over it and build that colour up and really get up against that lead. Can you see what's going on there? It's building the colour up nicer, making it a nice deep rich colour. You can make it as deep if you want to paint it a couple of times. It makes it deeper. If you just want it just a quiet effect, then obviously you're only going to paint it once. So there you are. So just having that little brush and the tip of it, I've been able to get right up to the edge of that lead. Of course, for larger areas, you're going to need the bigger brush as well. So if we come down here to this one, but this is just going on first time, so there's no paint there at all. So first of all, I'm going to go around the edge of the lead. Now don't put too much on your brush, because if your lead isn't quite tight, the seal isn't tight, it can run down behind and it won't look very nice on the other side of the door. Or, a worst case scenario, it'll run down and blend with the colour underneath. The softer the brush, the better the finish. And you brush in the same direction all the time. If it begins to dry, leave it. Don't overbrush it because you will ruin it. So there we are, coming round there. I'm almost swooping it round. You can see what I'm doing. And there we go, just a little bit more this way. So you can keep on at it, but the minute it starts to dry, stop, because otherwise you're going to get all these blotches. Working with this purple, you can see this has had one coat here. I'm going to build the colour up, and I'm coming in down the edge with this. Just want one little tip, please make sure the paint is completely dry before you put a second layer on, otherwise it just goes glooky and horrible. So the wider the area, the wider the brush. This brush is just right for in here. Now what I do in my brushes, I've just gone out and bought two really good brushes, or three in fact, 'cause I've got one that's the middle size. And then what I do in between, when I'm finished, is I just got a little pot of white spirit here, and then I just wash my brush out and then get it straight off, and then that's ready to use for the next colour. You have to be really sure you've got all of the colour out though, and I tend to work down in the colour spectrum, so I do the lighter shades first just in case there's a hint left in there, but sometimes it just gives it a nice effect on the different colours, so it always works in. So there we are, just a few more little pieces to colour, and that's that little project finished.
So here then is our final effect, with our doors all painted as chandelier, and all looking rather grand, I must say.
So there you are, our project all finished. I'm really pleased with that, and I've had such fun. So thank you for watching all of our videos, Deriton 33. Thank you.